Hello Nitro fans, it's been a while. Racing 393. I did a video ages ago now, it seems, it is, weeks ago. I was am in the process of rebuilding a point. It's my TRX 15, it's for the Traxxas Nitro 4 Tech. Done the running video on the car, purchased another one, mainly for spares and the engine, to be honest. Now it's not a TRX, what they called, 2.5 or 3.3. It's been a while. I'll probably make loads of mistakes here. Yeah, like I said, it's not the 3.3 or the 2.5, so it's the 0.5 TRX 15.15. It goes well. So the one I've got and currently use, it's fine. It's in good condition. It's not been raced or rallied, as the saying goes, and it's got. So I cleaned it all out and everything. It's got good compression, so you can tell that by when you turn the engine over, and also, if you do end up stripping the engines down, the clear thing is that the piston doesn't go all the way to the top. Now this one is this sleeve here is the one out of the TRX 0.15 that I'm currently rebuilding, and here's the piston. So I have pinched the top of this myself. And I did this with this clamp here, but that's too, well, it doesn't go like that, does it? But that's too, in itself, is too big. Actually, it's not that one, but it's like that. I've got another one, I'm not going to get it now, but it's smaller than that. So you use a clamp like this. This is one way, and I've made a sleeve, or I should say, I could just out of copper pipe. And I've cut the ends, so you technically, not in this one, but you put that inside your clamp and then clamp that up on the sleeve. Now there's many ways you can do this. You can send it away to get it done professionally, which isn't a bad thing. At least it isn't a good thing, it's probably a better thing. Or the other way is to get like those hose clamps you get in cars. You get a small one and you can do them up on the edge here. Reasonably tight. You know, you can do them with a screwdriver, or they've got the ability to be able to be done up with a ratchet. So you get them done up reasonably tight, and then you can just use a heat gun and heat up this. All you're trying to do is just pinch it in gradually, because this is the one that was out of the car, and this is the piston and the rod that goes in. Now I know that that bit there, the little notch, that's the exhaust port. So that faces the exhaust on this engine, and when they took this out, it was the flush, or the flat end, the flat side of the com rod. So I know it went in that way. Now when I first got this, I don't know if I've showed you this already, but I could very easily push it through. I must admit, it's probably got, I could probably go a little bit more with that, but it's quite hard to push further, and it goes tight-ish, but there's more resistance about there. Can you see that? And then I push up, and that there's quite tight, but I could force it through there if I wanted to. So I'm not saying that that's perfect, but it's as much as I want to do it. The clamp with this sort of offcuts of copper pipe, I wouldn't say is absolutely perfect. I would probably use the hose clamp method, but I didn't have a hose clamp that size, so I might try that next time. So anyway, we're now in a process, so this is part 2. So I'm in the process now of rebuilding it back together. Now, before I get that far, I'm just trying to remember, because it's been a while. The reason it's been ages and ages is what I'm doing now is you can't see it, but I'm looking at it in my garden, and we're building, there's 2 sheds going up. Nothing's been done at the moment. And one of the sheds is for normal like garden stuff. Washing machine, fridge, freezer, etc. And the other shed is going to be for, it's a hobby shed. You can't see what I'm looking at here other than the kitchen. I've got stuff everywhere. It's been there a while as well. My other half's very patient with me. It's not because I've got nowhere to put it, it's because I was working on cars and I've left a certain amount of surplus down here in the kitchen area. Yeah, and I need to expand. So yeah, we've got another shed. It's not only that, it will tidy up the garden, you know, usual stuff. And the shed that's currently in the garden is about 15 years old, so it's time to get rid of it. Anyway, we've got 3-in-1 oil, so that's going to be just a rebuild. And I've got the main engine, what would you call that, block? So it's TRX 15. Now I'm going to have to clean this up because it is a bit grubby, and I'll do that now. And then I'll have to re-oil the bits, but I've got to be careful because that in there, I thought that pin there is supposed to be spring-loaded, but I can't move it. I did try to sort of move it out. I won't be doing that. But I'm going to clean this up. It does feel okay. There's no play. I mean, this feels fine. It's not going to hurt. I don't plan on taking the, so there's only like an Allen screw there. I might take this off just to clean this out. But I'm going to do that off camera and just give this a little bit of a clean out, and then clean up the sleeve and this with a little bit of sort of, aluminium cleaner and what have you, just to get some marks off it. It is fairly clean anyway. And then we can start reassembling. There's quite a lot to do. Now the thing is, the main purpose of this was to see if we could tune any of this. Now, I was looking at this earlier on. There's not a huge amount on this one. You can probably just about open up the exhaust bit mainly there a little bit with like a Dremel. I'm planning on matching this face here with the exhaust header. I'm thinking just because it's so, these engines are so small and so you probably don't need to do anything. But the reason I bought this is to try and see if I can eke any more out of it. So the plan would be to use the current engine, one of these, the other one that's already in the car, and do another speed run with the, I don't know if I can't even remember. I think I said last time, did I do it with a speed meter on it? I can't remember, but get it out for a speed run, bring it back home, swap the engines over, which isn't as straightforward as it should be, but swap the engines over and put this back in, tune it up obviously, and take it back out and see if it does anything. If it blows itself to smithereens, then it doesn't work. So yeah, anyway, let me clean this up and I'll be back. So all I've done is I haven't finished by any stretch, but I've just cleaned the main body out. I took the clutch bell off, cleaned the bearings, put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on them and stuck it back on. It was fairly free anyway. It does feel a bit smoother now. I've sort of put a little bit of oil, I've cleaned out the water, blew it all out, and put a little bit of 3-in-1 on the bearings and the bits that move. It feels quite smooth. It doesn't feel, I can't feel any issues with it at all. Now I'm still going to clean this up a little bit because I want to make sure this sleeve goes back in without too much problem. It will probably go in. I'll just clean up these sort of burnt bits off there. The other thing I was going to do, this is the exhaust header because it's really grimy, and the exhaust sort of outlet there where the header is, as you can see, is a lot different to this one. Now I know if I opened this out, or at least opened up the ends here a little bit, you can make it a little bit more of a sweeping. I'm just going to sort of make sure this is cleaned up inside. I'm definitely going to clean this up now. I'll be back when this is less gooey, because this is a bit of a mess, that one. Just trying to make sure. Oh, this goes around the back. Oh yeah, pretty sure that's like, yeah, it's like that. I'm just thinking the exhaust doesn't come straight off that, does it? Because I've just looked at it. It's got a right angle on it. That makes sense. It's okay, my mind's going ahead of myself. Right, let me, I'm just gonna clean this up and I'll be back. During the process of cleaning this up at the moment, I don't have to do this, but part of my, my channel is actually like restoring items back to the best that I can with what I've got. I'm just trying to take the burnt nitro residue off of this. It is cleaner now. I've just got to get inside here and I'll give it another soak and carry on and flatten this off. You'd also notice at the end of the exhaust, that's really small, isn't it? So I'm thinking, because that's quite a lot larger, it's not going to go out that big. But what I think I might try and do is just chamfer it in at the ends here, and then maybe get a polishing wheel in there from a Dremel and just tidy it up, and in here the exhaust outlet. I don't know if it make a difference, but my usual process would be, if you can get the air in smoother and get it out smoother, you will gain performance. So I'm going to carry on doing this at the moment. It's a bit of a laborious task, but I think it had to. This header had a bit of coating on it anyway, so doing this takes that off as well. It's like a silver, must be paint, I guess, or a dye. And I just want to get the majority of this residue off. And I'll, at the moment you can see here, getting that off is pretty time consuming. But it's certainly looking better. So I will carry on doing this. And I shall see you back in a bit for you. I don't know how long this will take me, but we'll get as far as we can. And I'll show you the end result of what I'm happy with. This is about as clean as I can get it without going super silly. Much better. There's a few bits here and there which I will do on the edges here, but I've cleaned up all the sort of the face, and all the burnt stuff is mainly off. It's got a few chips and divots and bends. Things have hit it over the years it's been used. But that there is much better. Now I know it's only aesthetics. It's not going to make any difference to the car. If I put it on there nice and if I put it on there oily, it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. But my next task is just to open out that bit a fraction more. Now I know it'll need cleaning again, and also going to use my polishing wheel just to polish the best I can in there. To make it smoother for the gases, if you like. It's not quite like a petrol engine, like a diesel, isn't it? But making it a bit easier for the residue to go back out the exhaust. Of course, you've got the exhaust to worry about. I suppose you're thinking, well, this is plastic. I probably will use this exhaust on the car. This is the one it was designed to use with. I mean, it's got a big plastic effectively exhaust header on here, which probably negates anything I'm doing, but I can put another exhaust on there. Yeah, I can actually, or can I? Yes, I can. I get a right angle bend, I could put another exhaust on, but this is just a purpose of just does what I do make any difference or nothing? Right, I think what now I'm going to do now is just very lightly start to sort of in there. I don't know if you can see, it's not great, and it's got like a recess in there. So it's the exhaust. You got this bit which goes into the flange. You can see it's like a ridge. I think I might just sort of open these out a little bit here, mainly at the edges, not so much along this bit. And then obviously you've got because the exhaust gasket is it's a lot longer than what the header is. So we've got this massive, which matches the engine. Of course, when that goes on, if you look at that exhaust gasket, I'm not saying I'm going to open it out that much by any stretch, but I've got quite a bit to play with there. I don't want to open the horizontal bits, but the vertical bits I can sort of skim back just to make a little bit more of a, I think I might just put like a, what's that going to be called, like a flow in there. It's only aluminium, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Well, that's the plan anyway. So I'm going to go and get the tool, get my Dremel, and we'll get this started. So I've done a bit of work on this. It's clean. I think I showed you this a second ago, but I've done a little bit of work in the exhaust header where it sort of meets the sort of the block here, where these this aluminium tube is welded to this flange. It pokes through, but it creates a lip in there. So I've just literally, you can pretty much see it, but I've just very slightly opened it out. I've only done a little bit because being such small engines, I'm pretty sure that not a lot of effort to take material away could make a bigger or poorer difference, or no difference. So that's clean. I'm now gonna just clean this up, the block, make sure that's clean in there, clean the sleeve, clean the piston, then I'll reassemble the sleeve. I was going to machine the sleeve. I've since decided not to do anything with the sleeve at the moment. I just want to make sure it fits back in and seated properly, and then I can get the piston and the rod back in. So let me just do that. It's a little bit of cleaning up. It's fairly clean anyway. If you're looking there, I just want to make sure that it's smoother and that the sleeve just sort of goes back in. A little bit of oil on there will probably help, and then we'll be back. We'll start a little bit of the assembly. I've got this back in. It feels okay. I think, if anything, it might be a little bit too tight now than it was. So the pinching has worked. It'll probably need a little bit of running in, if I'm honest. So I'm going to show you that the exhaust outlet there. That's part of where the exhaust manifold or the header will go on, and you've got the liner in there. Now you can see that the liner, I suppose you could open the liner out to match the exhaust there. That could be one thing I could do if, for example, what I've done here makes no difference. Yeah, so that's something I might do. But I think let's get it all back together, I suppose, cleaned up here and there, and then I'll, I'm going to have to I think, because it's a bit tighter now, I think do re-pinched sleeves or liners require running in. It does feel a little bit tight. And if anything, that's the bit where it gets tight-ish. It's about 5mm from the top. So that might be too much. But anyway, it is what it is. It is an experimental sort of process. So the next thing to do is I'm going to put the cap in on what's this called there? The motor plate, the plug. I'm going to clean that up and we'll get that back on. And then clean the head, put that back on, and then I'll put the exhaust header on, and we can go from there. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. I can never remember which way this goes. But anyway, that's by the by at the moment. Right, I'm gonna put this end plate. What are they called? I can't remember. I should know. I've taken so many off. Blank. Is it a blank on this one? Anyway, doesn't matter. Let me dig it out and we'll go from there. So this is the end plate. It's like I suppose this is the pull start part. It's got a spindle in there. It's all kind of machined. It's got a brass bearing, I think, at the end there, the shaft. The shaft does come out. So we'll give that a clean. And we'll give this a bit of a wipe down, get that muck off there. And I also think, my understanding is I think I had a gasket on there, I'm not sure. If I haven't got a gasket, then I'll just put a little bit of a gasket sealer around the edges. But yeah, this needs a little bit of a clean. You can see on the shaft, this goes onto the rod, and that little notch there goes onto the pin of the crank. I say the rod, but you know what I mean, where the rod connects to the crank, that sort of presses up against it, so that's what turns the motor over effectively. So right, so there's no point going to film me cleaning this. That'd be a bit boring. So I'm going to just clean it up, and I'll show you as I'm sort of installing it back on the motor. Bits I've got here now. So these, I've cleaned these up. It did have a gasket on there. You couldn't see it when it was on there, but it's nice, and it's a plasticky type gasket, but so that's fine. And then we got the 4 fixing bolts. So I'll probably try this on camera if I can. So this, first off, we're going to put the gasket on. It's all cleaned. It doesn't matter which way it goes on there. I don't think it does anyway, but to me, there we go. So that's all squared up. Because a clear gasket, you just can't see it. Now you're going to put a little bit of oil on the bearing there, and I'll also do the other side there. Don't want to overdo it. And then this goes in here. So that's the sort of the pull start, I suppose. Pretty sure this had a... Yeah, I think it might need a pull start put on here actually, which I'll have to do. Because it's a roto start, isn't it? Or easy start as they call it. It's called easy start. I said roto start last time, but anyway. So this notch... Don't want to move the gasket. I can see it's moved. That notch goes onto the engine. So I'm going to put the sort of the piston on the rod at, like, best I can at bottom dead center. That's at bottom dead center. I believe that's where the pull start would be. So yeah, so actually I've got to go like that. So this metal sort of triangulated part there is where the string and the pull start would go if you wanted to pull start this engine. So let's see how well this fits on. It shouldn't be too bad. I think I've done it right. Sort of looking at it there, it seems to fit okay. Then all we've got to do now is install these screws. Now I'm not going to Loctite these in because I don't think my motors or the engines actually stay together. Well, sorry, I don't use them to the point where they're worn out. Most of them are pretty much worn out anyway. So I've got that. Yeah, it's quite difficult to start actually. So I'll have to get a tool. So I haven't got my tool hex for that, but I'm gonna go and grab it now. It's just literally on the other table. So I'm literally going to put those in. I can just turn the sort of the shaft there, and the piston just starts to turn. So I'm going to put that on. I think the one-way bearing that came off, I'm going to clean it and see how that feels when it goes back on there. And then we're going to put the header on. So let me just get my hex to do that up, and I'll be back. So let's quickly do these up. So I'm not going to do up super tight at the moment. And again, one of those sort of things that I do, I'll do it across. You know, you do that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. It's just something that makes sense to me. But it's literally finger tight at the moment. Thing is with these, I'm so used to full-size engines. When you scale it down to these, what are basically miniature diesel engines, it's just, I don't know, they are a bit fiddly. And I think if you've got engineering background, you can kind of over complicate simple tasks. They don't need to be done up like, I don't know. I've seen some YouTubers do things up with, I mean, it could be not as much force as what they're making out, but it implies that you've got to really tighten these up. I understand that these things, you know, they do need to be put together correctly, and I'm not saying this one is. I'm a little bit concerned about that pinch, but anyway, you don't need to sort of really get these tight. And I understand I should perhaps use Loctite. I have got Loctite, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe on the engine mounts it would make sense. So that's just done up a little bit nipped. But my actual final bit now is going to be that. So I haven't, you do it by like how it feels. That's it. That's it. So no tighter than that. There's obviously, you know, a perfect torque setting. I don't know what that is. So, so I think now that should all. It does work quite well there. I'm concerned because it's got like a double. It's not a double pinch, but it's got a tight spot. It does move the cylinder up a little bit, but anyway, that does look okay. Now the one-way bearing, if you pull that way, so if I pulled, if the string was here, it would pull the engine over. So that feels all right to me. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a clean out. I'm going to put that on. And then the next thing I should really put on is the header. Might as well put this on with the gasket. And I've got the two long exhaust bolts here. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to clean this just for, you know, my own peace of mind. We'll perhaps put a tiny bit of oil in there. They've got like roller bearings, you might not be able to see that, but there's roller bearings in there. And then we'll get a bit of oil on it and put it back on. So all I've done, when I clean my stuff, I've got one or two ways. Simple soapy water, warm water in the sink, and an old toothbrush. Also, I might sometimes use oven cleaner if it's particularly grimy. I used oven cleaner on the exhaust header and then sort of polished it up a little bit. But that's relatively clean now. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the spindle there and a little bit in there. So I don't want to overdo it. They're oily enough as it is. So there we go. So that's the chamfered edge, which goes on to sort of the bearing. So that is on there. Whoops, not that one. Okay, so that's that bit done. So the exhaust header would be the next thing that goes on. I can't remember which way around that goes. So it goes in, I should now know, I've looked at it. So if it's facing you, the exhaust header goes around the back of the engine and the exhaust goes past the pull start. So it goes in like that. Don't suppose that's going to make any difference what I've done there, but we can try, can't we? So let me, we might actually do this on camera, so it's not very difficult. I've got the original exhaust gasket, that's there, so that can go onto the exhaust. It is in reasonably good condition. Shouldn't be too much of an issue there. I mean, you can see there with the gasket on there, you've got quite a lot of, you could open up that exhaust and the exhaust on the sleeve, sort of the exhaust port, if you like. Right, let me, these are the bolts that came off. Do they screw into that? Oh, actually, that goes in that way, doesn't it? I should know that, shouldn't I? So they go into the sort of the engine block first. So that goes into there, and then we've got this one, which goes into there. Keep forgetting this should be on camera. So they're in. I don't think that should sort of, that's it, that goes in. Now what I will do, I'm going to put a tiny bit of oil on the threads. I say a tiny bit, the drip. Now I do know that the gasket's got to go on there now, so that's, I'm trying to do it on camera and I forget the camera's only like little. No, that's fell out, doesn't matter. So that goes on like that. That one should still go back in. At least they're not rusted in there. Well, that's why I take my engines apart and make sure that they're in good condition. For some reason, people don't tend to look after their nitros. I have no idea why. That should match there. If you can push that like that and hold that on there. And then we should be able to do these up. Like that, a little bit at a time. It only screws into the aluminium head. So again, you've got to be so careful you don't over tighten these little miniature engines. They don't take much. See that one, there's a little bit tight going in, but I think that's the, I hope that's just the, yeah, there's a little bit of grit in there or something. Right, so they're nipped up. You can see that's back on. I will just do my, that's it, no much tighter than that I don't think. That one feels a little bit more stripped on that side. So I haven't done that particularly tight. So that's the exhaust header back on. For a minute, I didn't think the camera was recording. Dick. Now, I'm going to clean this head up. Now, what I was planning on doing is spraying it. I think we'll clean it up first. Take the plug out. It's not. Yeah, I think I still might do that. It's not an ideal. It's sunny at the minute. It's not an absolutely ideal. I don't have to do it. So let me clean this head up. Take the plug out, and then I'll decide how to go about this. I can rub it down. It's got some damage on there, you see, so we can get rid of that. Most of these come like they're sort of standard factory blue, aren't they? I don't know what blue that is. It's like a metallic, I think. But anyway, I'm going to get this cleaned and prepped. I might come back and show you either it cleaned and ready to install, or it'll be rubbed down ready for paint. There's no other reason other than just to be different. All this, it probably won't work anyway. That's why we do videos. So this is the cooling fins. Incidentally, they've got like gaskets on here, aluminium gaskets. Looking at that, it's probably got 2 or 3. You can take 1 off, 2 off, or all 3 off if it's got 3. And that can change the compression. So you can make the engine a slightly higher compression or lower compression. I suppose it depends on what sort of condition your engine's in, I guess. I don't know whether it's a thing. You can see there, look, where they sort of start to come off. Again, it's something that I overlooked. Not all my engines have these on. And I suppose if you've got a lathe, you could sort of turn this down. That's the combustion chamber. That's where the glow plug would ignite the nitro. So you could sort of skim that down. So you can tune these engines, and I'll be honest with you, you probably find just doing that alone and or the gasket would make more of a difference than what I've done on the header there. But yeah, I've rubbed it down. It's not too bad here now. So I'm in 2 minds whether to make this a 2-part video, because I've not done any videos for ages. And yeah, no, I've just taken it off now. So there's the shim. I'm not sure there's another one on there. There's only got 1 on there. It's difficult to see. It looks like 2, but I think it has got another one there, just I can't get to it. So there's 1 there, and there's this one here. So again, it's something you can try. Perhaps when I've got the engine running and perform, and then take the head off, the cooling head, remove the shim, put it back on and try it again. But I'm going to paint this, so I think for the purpose, I've got to do quite a lot more work with the car yet, with the engine. I think what I might do is make this 2 parts, otherwise it just goes on for a bit long. And like I've not done any videos for ages, so I think it'd be quite nice to get something out there that's, you know, people might want to watch. So I think that will conclude part 1. In part 2, when I come back, you'll see what colour, well, it's only what colour I've got really, not what I'm going to paint it. We'll paint this a different colour. And the next video will be the installation of this. Maybe, I think I've got the pull start. The pull start will be back on, and we'll look at the carb. We'll strip the carb down, put that back on, and then we'll look at the easy start wiring loom. We'll get that back on, and then it'll be ready to install in one of my chassis, or the chassis I've got, and we'll give it a fire up. But obviously we'll do that once we've run the standard configuration Fortec again. So we've got something that's fresh in my mind anyway. That, I mean, I've got a video what it went like. It does go well, that one. So we'll just see if all this messing about has made any difference. So that will conclude part 1. Appreciate you watching, and please follow, like and subscribe if that's a thing. Do you follow, like and subscribe on YouTube? Don't know if you follow, do you? Don't know. That's isn't that X, what used to be called Twitter? Don't get me started. Yeah, so I appreciate you liking and notifications on my channel, and we'll see you soon for part 2. Bye bye for now.